Good morning. Guten Tag. Greetings from Silicon Valley to you all, wherever you are right now. Welcome to the challenge information session of the third Transatlantic AI Hackathon. We are excited to introduce you to our smart industry DeepHack. With this challenge, we invite you to transform manufacturing with edge computing and cloud data integration. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our website. It is open to everyone who wants to participate in the online hackathon or who is simply interested in the topic. Let's have a brief look at today's agenda. We will talk about the purpose, the challenge, the timeline, the logistics, the software and hardware tools, and the prizes and other giveaways and benefits of the hackathon. The Transatlantic AI Hackathon is organized by the German-American Business Association of California, also known as GABA, in cooperation with our partner EIT Digital, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and with the support of our generous sponsors Intel and Lexonis. This initiative has the goal to foster transatlantic relations and cooperation in the field of artificial intelligence, and to promote the responsible use of AI in different areas of the economy. As such, the hackathon is supported by the Transatlantic Program of the Federal Republic of Germany, which in turn is funded by the European Recovery Program of the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. In German, Deutschlands Bundesministerium für Wirtschaft und Klimaschutz. My name is Cornelia Bohle. I am the Executive Director of GABA, living and working in Silicon Valley for the past 25 years. GABA is a non-profit business association with an established professional network here in California and strong connections to Germany. GABA's mission is to help its members and friends to share knowledge, gain insight, and expand connections. We provide powerful networking and impactful events for our vibrant community in person and online. For over 2 decades, GABA has been working at the forefront of transatlantic business, innovation, trends, and technology. 3 years ago, GABA and EIT Digital started organizing the Transatlantic AI Hackathons, with UltraHack executing the actual hackathon's logistics. In 2001, the challenge was about health and safety. In 2022, it was about creating sustainable supply chains. This year, in 2023, our Smart Industry Challenge aims at contributing to the 4th Industrial Revolution. Now, what is so special and unique about the Transatlantic AI Hackathons? Our online DeepHack offers 15 teams the opportunity to compete, to network, to exchange ideas, and to collaborate in order to solve real-world problems using cutting-edge technologies. To ensure the transatlantic aspect of this collaboration, one central requirement for the teams is that they must include 1 US American and 1 German citizen or resident. The rest of the team can come from anywhere else. So please plan on mixing your team accordingly. However, no worries. We are here to help with matchmaking. What will happen in the coming weeks leading up to the actual hackathon, which is scheduled for the weekend of April 21st? In the next couple of days, we will post the recording of today's webinar to the website. We will also post training videos for the software and hardware tools from our sponsors Intel and Lexonis. The videos will allow you to learn more about edge AI technology and will be accessible to everybody, even if you do not plan to participate in the Smart Industry DeepHack. The hackathon teams are invited to use the tools from Intel and Lexonis, and they will have access to technical mentoring and support during the hackathon weekend. However, there is no strict mandate to use these tools. Midnight of Sunday, April 2nd, is the deadline to apply to the hackathon for individuals and for partial or complete teams. And April 2nd is also the deadline to submit your project proposals. So remember, the day after April Fool's Day is the deadline to register. The subsequent matchmaking workshop will then help to assemble or complete teams in order to fulfill the requirement of 1 US American and 1 German participant per team. By the end of the matchmaking week, just in time before the Easter weekend, the team selection will be complete and the selected 15 teams will receive information and instructions on the next steps. In the week before the actual hackathon weekend, there will be an opportunity for the participants to meet the mentors. The actual DeepHack weekend will then start on Friday, April 21st. That will be on Friday afternoon in Europe and on Friday morning in California. The DeepHack will conclude on Sunday with the pitch and presentation session, followed by closed-door jury deliberations and wrapped up by the award ceremony. Access to the pitch session and the award ceremony will be available for everybody who is interested to watch. Talking about awards, remember that every selected participant will receive a spatial AI camera from Luxonis. This camera is for you to explore, to use, and to keep. Next, we have a prize pool of $10,000 in cash. A big thank you to our sponsors here. Our German-American jury of 5 will determine the winning teams and decide how these cash funds will be distributed among the winners. Some final notes from my end. To receive updates specific to the Transatlantic AI Hackathon, please sign up for our communication list so that we can keep you in the loop. We will copy the link into the chat window. Please use the chat window to let us know your questions. Some questions might get a direct response. Others might be discussed during the Q&A later on. Also, feel free to use the chat window to introduce yourself and your interests, especially if you're still looking for a partner or team. Dear outreach partners, thank you for your support. And if you're listening today, feel free to use the chat window to greet the audience. This concludes my introduction of today's Challenge Information webinar. Now, it is my honor to introduce our esteemed German Consul General from San Francisco, Oliver Schramm. Oliver.
Well, thank you so much, Cornelia, for that splendid introduction, also for laying the groundwork already for the days ahead. Very exciting competition, I think. And I wanted to start by thanking you, Cornelia, and your team, and Kai and everyone with the German American Business Association, and also your partners with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology for pulling this off. Also, a big thank you to the proud sponsors, Intel Corporation and Luxonis. And of course, we must not forget that this is a joint, as is the competition, but this is also a joint effort by those organizations that have outreach cloud, namely the AI Hamburg, German American Chamber of Commerce, the German Accelerator, the German Science and Innovation Center, KidLink, and others. So what a wonderful occasion. The third competition in a row, 3 years now. And of course, it comes this year as it did last year at a very important moment in time. If you look at the political landscape and the geopolitical implications, not only the war in Ukraine, but also supply chain issues, and of course the ever-rising question of AI and how it will influence and how it will fundamentally change the workplace of tomorrow and the way our societies will click and work together, and hopefully work together in an ever closer cooperation. And this is exactly what this competition is also about. You mentioned, Cornelia, the way the teams are organized, and I very much welcome the fact that this is a transatlantic exercise with team members from both sides of the Atlantic, and of course an international setting, as is the case in many startups and many young companies founded, and especially here in the Silicon Valley. So this is wonderful. And I also want, of course, to acknowledge the in our Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action for putting aside this special fund to finance and to help these important competitions year after year. And I think this is something that needs all the support it can get. As you know, we are now in a scenario worldwide where especially the transatlantic cooperation is something that we need to foster. You've seen legislation in the US, the IRA and Chips and Science Act. And on the European side, of course, we're also trying to spring up with programs helping to kickstart companies, young people, startups, but also our industry. And this is what it's all about. Whatever the 15 teams will then work on, and whatever solution they might come up with. And of course, I mentioned AI and its importance for our industries and societies, economies of the future. If you just think about qualified labor and the change of workplaces, that is something where AI plays a super important role. Labor shortage is a big issue on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm a member of the baby boom generation, so you know that a big chunk of our population will retire in a couple of years, and of course there will be a bigger gap even. And AI and robotics and machine learning is certainly one way, or a very important way, if not a central way, to overcome these gaps and to present us with new solutions. But this is true for many other fields. If you think about medtech, medicine, and health and life science, you have a lot of other issues there. The fourth industrial revolution you mentioned, Cornelia, that is exactly what is also supposed to be taking place in our industry and factories. And of course, the digital world will play a vital role, but of course, manufacturing, and Germany is a manufacturing country, will always keep its importance. So it's good that more and more of these solutions and that thinking enters into what we need to build the things of the future, the products of the future, in a safer and a more sustainable way. So with this Transatlantic AI Hackathon, we encourage, you mentioned that, Cornelia, a wide array of people, students, hackers, entrepreneurs with startups to become part of this. And I wish all participants as of April 1 and then April 21, 23, when the real hackathon, the marathon, the 3 exciting days will start, all the best of luck. And may the best win, but you're all winners already participating. And don't forget, maybe a last word from my side, a good programmer always looks both ways before he crosses a one-way street. So all the best, have a great kickoff, and many, many thanks from the German Consulate General here in San Francisco. Thank you.
Fantastic, Oliver. Thank you for your inspiring words. Wonderful. Now we're moving on. Next, it is my pleasure to give the words to my project partner, Mirko Tadic from EIT Digital in Berlin. Mirko.
Thank you, Cornelia, for the introduction, and hello, everybody from me as well. As Cornelia said, I come from EIT Digital, and I'm leading Risk Venture Program and DeepHack programs there. So to start, let me tell you a few words about EIT Digital, which is an organization created and supported by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, or the EIT shortly. We are a partnership organization with the pan-European multi-stakeholder open innovation ecosystem, consisting of top European corporations, SMEs, startups, universities, and research institutes. So we have an ecosystem of around 350 partners. Aside being partnership, we are also aiming to be an impact organization. So far, we produced over 3,000 master school graduates, we have supported over 500 startups, which raised in total over 1.3 billion euros, and we are leading strategic partnerships and collaborations in EU projects with value of over 100 million. So just these numbers to illustrate what is our scope and what is our aim here. So we aim to invest in strategic areas to accelerate the market update of digital technologies which focus on European key societal challenges in digitization, which are digital tech, digital cities, digital industry, digital well-being, and digital finance. With many of programs that we support. DeepHack is one of these programs. We started in 2018, and it's been a success in providing open innovation events, initially leveraging EIT Digital ecosystem of students. It's part of our the funnel from unipreneur to unicorn, and we aim to be very first point in entrepreneurial support funnel. As we have covered a variety of topics so far, from 3D printing to traffic congestion, creating application stores for POS terminals, urban logistics, food supply chains, just to name a few. This is the third DeepHack in series of Transatlantic AI Hackathons we organize in cooperation with GABA. We are very excited to collaborate with GABA on this project, and we'll focus here as well on using Edge AI, which is a technique of processing AI algorithms on hardware devices locally, to rethink industry and manufacturing, trying to make them more resilient against all the factors that my colleagues spoke about before. I will maybe focus a little bit on why. Because it's hugely important for both EU and Germany and US. Roughly quarter of GDP of mentioned countries comes from industry, and if we look at the number, it's close to 7 trillion euros or US dollars. It is a sector that is, like many others, are facing challenges and changes, global competition already mentioned, and change in the demographics being just a few. So knowing that these changes are coming, and on the other hand, having these tools provided by our sponsors, we will focus in the challenge on computing on the edge, which enables devices that are, let's say, far from the cloud, or let's say cloud adjacent, and on-premise servers to collect and analyze massive amount of information that will come from many diverse processes in manufacturing or manufacturing enabling processes like cybersecurity. Collecting all this data and being able to perform calculations and algorithm processes to provide insights and overview on execution of manufacturing processes is hugely important for manufacturing companies. On the other hand, all these changes in the way that industry is moving will also mean that for participants, it's a trial process for the, let's say, future workplace and future workforce. So aside mentioned prices, I think I would focus on opportunity for you to work with the industry experts, to ask them questions, to let's say run your ideas and innovation by them, take the feedback in, and then take it as a learning curve, and maybe this DeepHack just to be a starting process, whether for your career or maybe entrepreneurial way. From me, as from my colleagues, good luck for the application process and for those selected for the DeepHack itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirko. Thank you. It is a real pleasure to work with you on this project. Now
Thanks,
Now I'm actually excited to introduce Ragnar Kruse from AI Hamburg as our keynote speaker. Ragnar, your stage is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation. Next slide, please. Yes, so today we're talking about smart industry and transforming manufacturing, and I will go into more detail. Next slide, please. Little introduction to me, and you can also connect on LinkedIn, just scanning the QR code. As this video will be available offline, I just skipped this slide. There's enough information in there. The last 20 years, I've been doing companies with AI, with solutions, and therefore quite a lot of experience. But we also have built a startup hub where we have an accelerator and where we have run the last year just 16 startups on AI and so on. So next slide, please. Yeah, so first of all, top level benefits and economic impact. And Oliver already talked about it. Cornelia also addressed it. How important is AI and how important are the solutions we'll be working on the hackathon? Next slide. To realize AI has an impact of more than 15 trillion US dollars within this decade. Yeah, and then when you break it down by geography, you can actually see for Germany, it has an impact of 11% of German GDP. Yeah? But when you look in the US, it's plus 14%. When you look in China, it's plus 26%, which actually means is we could do better in Germany and in the US. We just need to learn how we get AI into productivity. How do we get it into our economy to actually drive it really forward? Next slide. Then when you look at what are the growth drivers, it's productivity gains from business automating processes. Some we will kind of look into a little later, robotics, autonomous mobility, and productivity gains from business augmentation and the existing labor force with AI. And third, of course, consumer demand. That's very often on also on marketing. Next slide. Important is we already have enough proof point what happens if you leverage AI. So 7 of the 10 most valuable public companies actually use AI as a key technology. Next slide. Going forward, AI will be driving even much more the value of those kind of companies. So it will add more than 30 trillion to their market cap. And this hasn't kind of calculated in ChatGPT. Yeah, and we all have followed the news over the last 3 months. There's going to be much more technology out there which will drive productivity. Next slide. Yeah, and we already have the basis. We have a lot of talent. We have a huge ecosystem in Europe and Germany and of course in the US. I think in Europe alone, we have more than 4,500 AI companies. In the US, there are more than 12,000 AI companies. Yeah. Those are all companies who already put ideas into products and then bring those products to the market. And we need more of those, better capitalized and with more ideas. That's the purpose also of this hackathon, coming up with more ideas, which then we ideally are able to get into products. Next slide. Yeah, and then let's talk about applications of AI in business. Next, please. When we look at productivity boosts through AI, you see very often the automation and cost reduction, and then reduce labor work, handling cost, procurement, and so on. Revenue increase and new revenues. Today, we will very much concentrate on automation, cost reduction, and cost reduction. Next slide. Then when you look in what is also important is more and more companies actually have also seen how and where they can improve their business. So in manufacturing, we actually see that those companies see that they have a good chance to increase their revenues, but also decrease their cost. Yeah, and specifically, Oliver was talking to it in a time where we have demographic changes. There's less and less personnel. We need to much more look into efficiencies and automation. Next. And then again, in all the different business segments in manufacturing, AI will play a big role in smart factory, product quality monitoring, predictive maintenance, robotic automation, and autonomous driving. Next slide. Yeah, and here are a few examples, and you might have seen the one or the other. Autonomous warehousing. Yeah, you could same apply to kind of production, where basically through automation, the productivity has been increased, and you easily can run those kind of organizations 24/7. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, same is, and I didn't find one for factories here from kind of retail. And here, this is a very good example, and actually you would need to kind of zoom in into this, but it shows the examples how with cameras, actually processes are observed, how you can see which products are more taken, where products are, where no products are, or where at the cash register, you want to have an automated cash registers by automatically detecting the products in the cart. Yeah. So in retail, there are more and more solutions out there, and they all use a lot vision. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So this is a lot of text. Again, the video will be available. So thinking about AI in manufacturing, there are some generic examples. On the next slide, I will come into more specific ones. In manufacturing, you have cobots work with humans. Yeah. So while autonomous robots are programmed to repeatedly perform any specific task, cobots are capable of learning with various tasks. Yeah. Lighthouse factories. And actually, I will just jump through this to the next slide. Yeah. AI systems which detect errors, predictive maintenance, improve safety, lower cost. Yeah. Meaning is you always collect data and therefore are able to also see how certain machines, how often they run and how much. And so instead of having fixed terms where you look at products, you actually can see how products, machines have been used, and therefore can much better predict when you need to do maintenance. Yeah, so you don't need to do it in those intervals, and also you don't run in situations where now a machine fails, which normally costs much more time as then having scheduled based on the work of a machine maintenance. Yeah. Digital twins, yeah, probably not something we will talk here in the hackathon about, but that also has helped to much more improve productivity in production. AI in warehouse management, yeah, we just had a company here who actually has done this in warehouses, actually for the postal service, yeah, tracking with cameras exactly what packages, what quantities, what packages come in a location where they put them into a specific shelf, being able to zoom in to exactly see actually what is on those labels. So didn't need kind of NFC or other scanning devices like the barcode, but just looking at packages, looking at where they have been done, and also understanding where you have free shelves, yeah, and where the shelves actually are more crowded, to better than being able to assign different shelf space. And then, of course, AI-based connected factories using a lot of sensors and being able to taking that data to much better predict production and even sometimes delays in production. Next slide. So, coming to specific examples, what can be used and done? You can use cameras in factories to detect proper protection, mask, gloves, yeah, what workers are wearing. Sometimes you have specific kind of requirements. All of that you actually are able to detect with those kind of cameras, yeah, which then ensures safe operations of machinery. Those cameras then monitor and control processes and alert operators for potential problems. Yeah. So nobody needs to push a button, but you can actually define and see processes which are normal, and then also alert if something is not normal. Detect and classify objects, quantify and qualify and use for predictions. I just brought the example in a warehouse with cameras. You actually can detect what kind of products, persons, machineries are, how they are moving. And based on that, then you can actually see where you might have problems. But it also, you can much better use it to collect data. All this movement, you can actually detect and put it into data, which then allows much better to make any kind of predictions going forward. So a very important part in everywhere where we use AI is actually get enough data together. Cameras allow us to detect objects and then being able to turn that into data, what then can be used for predictions. Therefore, facilitative, predictive, and preventative maintenance, I already mentioned that on the other slide, yeah, is understanding the processes, yeah, and put it into data, and then predict those kind of downtimes. Prevent collisions between workers and machines. Yeah, it's as cameras, and you need to think about in your use, in your examples about where do you position cameras and how many you are able to detect if there would be collisions and come up with alerts. You know? Identify defects in production lines. Yeah. Also very important, often they are more reliable than human results and less waste. Giving you an example, there's a production line, you have a factory and products actually are on a Fließband, it's in German. Now it slipped my mind. Yeah, so, and cameras actually
conveyor belt.
The quality.
Sorry, conveyor belt. Fließband.
Conveyor belt, yes. And so cameras actually can detect the quality of a product, yeah, and much better than human eye very often. And we had in southern Germany an example where normally when humans were detecting those, they actually decided on 4% that those products were actually defect. But with actually machines were much more accurate and we're able to define it in 1%, which actually means the difference, the 3%, was less waste. Yeah. So you just need to train a system based on with imaging, what is a defect, what is not a defect, yeah, and then include it in production lines for quality quality inspection. Yeah, and And of course, by doing so, you actually digitize, and that comes to the next, improve quality control and traceability. You know exactly what kind of errors you had and waste you had. And you also build the data, what then can be used for more and more prediction, and also gives much better analysis from what needs to be changed in the future. And increase overall efficiency and productivity. Yeah, it's very clearly those machines, they can run 24/7 automatically. Machines can then be leveraged a longer time frame, and you increase therefore the productivity and the efficiency. Yeah. Everywhere where you look at the business, you always find 10 to 15% where you actually can drive efficiency by properly using AI in those kind of processes. Yeah. Optimize industrial processes. Again, that's overall, when you have all the data, you're able to improve it. And that also allows you then to analyze data to identify trends and patterns. Yeah. I wanted to actually get some more slides with some more examples, but only found them out of other industries. Yeah, but please, when you're in this hackathon, think about machineries. Think about how you can actually, with cameras, detect quality of products or just objects, and being able to collect the data, and what then you can make use out of that. Yeah, and the possibilities are nearly endless. Yeah, and we're still very much behind what we could do. So here for this hackathon, you will find a lot of possibilities, but just keep your mind open. Yeah, and therefore come up with ideas. And no idea is too bad to think about. But I think taking some of those examples will help you to also go in a certain direction. And I know there are also mentors in the program, which also kind of help support your ideas and also steer you maybe in the right directions. Next slide. So this was already my kind of little introduction, you could say, as keynote. We all hope that you're all as excited as I am and the AI Hamburg team, and we welcome you all to the hackathon. It's fun. Yeah, it helps coming up with great solutions, and hopefully you will come up with a solution we once then will be able to turn into product. Next slide. Here are our contact details. Please, happy to connect to me or our co-founder Petra, actually, who is today in San Francisco. So we hope to see you all at the hackathon, and let's have an enjoyable, great session all together. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Ragnar, for sharing all this valuable information and framing the importance of applying AI solutions in your manufacturing world. Especially thanks also for inspiring our hackers to find the projects that they want to work on, to be creative and find their own ideas. Moving along, now I would like to introduce you to Jana Haggard from UltraHack. With UltraHack being the operator of the hackathon, Jana is the project manager who makes everything happen. So please pay attention. She will share a lot of important process information, from dates and deadlines all the way to tips and tricks on how to be successful. Jana.
Yes, thanks, Cornelia. So in terms of practicalities and how to join, you can go ahead to the next slide. Start out by just focusing us on, again, the challenge, what it is. Of course, the thematic is smart industry, transforming manufacturing with edge computing and cloud data integration. So keep that in mind while I go through the next items. I'm going to run through timeline milestones, how to find a dream team, how to apply on the website, ingredients to a winning team, what to look for in a winning team, things that are important to know, evaluation criteria and tips, and the schedule and next steps. So that's what we'll go through now. If you'd like to advance to the next slide, we'll get started. So here is the timeline of what's going on from now until the hackathon. You can see starting on the left there that we're already going up until April 2nd to register and find a team, or to start to look for a team at the very least. So participants need to register as individuals, and you can start an idea submission. That is definitely an advantage to help you find your team. But of course, you can also look at other team submissions and ask to join one that you like. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. But once you've got a submission in mind, all team members need to join that submission. Again, they would have registered individually, and then they join the submission. That registration deadline, again, is April 2nd at midnight Pacific time. All teams and submissions have to be registered on ultrahack.org by that date. So do your best on the submission, since that is how we will identify the teams that we accept and invite to the hackathon. You don't have to have your 100% final idea, but definitely make sure that it catches our attention and has potential, and we can tell. There will be a matchmaking workshop on the day after the registration deadline, April 3rd. So that is a chance for you to find a team if you need, for example, a German or American member. As Cornelia said, we will help you find that to make sure your team is eligible. And if you're still just kind of floating as a single person, but you really, really want to hack in this hackathon, we will definitely do our best to help you find the team that would suit you best. So we will do that online on April 3rd. There will be team selection on April 6th. So all those teams that have been formed, we'll take a look at their submissions, at the profiles of the applicants, and figure out who we'd like to invite. And then all the approved teams will receive an email notification with more information about next steps, and to receive their confirmation so that we know they will actually attend after being invited. Anybody who doesn't get invited will get kind of a regrets message, just to let you know you won't go without hearing from us, but hopefully you will be accepted. And then, of course, it says beneath that onboarding information will be included, and that is true. We will start the onboarding process pretty much immediately after approving teams. The next milestone for teams that are selected is Meet the Mentors, which is exactly what it sounds like. So that's on April the 18th. We introduce you to the mentors, and you get a few minutes to talk about your starting idea. So again, it doesn't have to be as fully mature as it will be at the very end of the hackathon, but wherever it stands at the time, go ahead and present that to the mentors, and you'll get some brief comments from them about what they think of your starting idea, what might strengthen it between then and the hackathon, what you might want to focus on during the hackathon. And that gives you a chance to develop your solution a little bit in advance of the event. And then, of course, last but not least, the hackathon itself from April 21st to 23rd. And as you know, this one will be online since it spans continents. And you will have support throughout from the high quality mentors that we recruit. There will be video communication taking place over Zoom, the same platform we're on right now, and communication in text form over Slack. I think there are also some audio options on Slack as well, but definitely all text will take place on Slack. Next slide, please. So in terms of finding the dream team that you will need, after you have registered to the hackathon, you will get a chance to reach out to teams that have made submissions, introduce yourself and your skills and ideas. You can do this at the matchmaking session as well if you're not doing it in advance on the platform. You can check out the other introductions and submissions on the website. I'll show you a screenshot of that shortly. You can browse submissions there, see what ideas people have, and send messages on the platform. So that would be contacting interesting people and teams. You message them and talk about joining or building a team. And the deadline to register your team and submission, again, is April 2nd. So steps after that, as we just covered, the matchmaking workshop, team selection and invitations. Crucially, camera shipping, you'll hear more about what that means shortly, and working on your idea with the team prior to the hackathon, the Meet the Mentors, and the hackathon. Next slide, please. So this is what you'll see when you go to the registration page, and you can get to this from the AI Transatlantic Hackathon webpage, or you can go directly to the ultrahack.org webpage and find this hackathon, the Smart Industry DeepHack. You see the green button that says apply to the hackathon. If you click that, it will take you to prompt you to log in. So next slide, please. If you have not already created an account, it'll prompt you to create an account, which is what you're seeing here. Very simple, standard way of creating an account, email, password, and password confirmation, and you're signed up and logged in. Next slide, please. And then you'll just be prompted to either create a team or join a team and follow the various instructions to go through updating a profile and next steps, depending on whether you have already created a project or not. And then from within this platform, you can message people and you can join teams or create your own team. Next slide, please. And I will mention, if you have any issues with the platform, we do have a chat bot there and you can get in touch with us that way. So if there's anything that confuses you or you get stuck, just reach out. So our advice in terms of ingredients to a winning team would be definitely start searching for those team members early. So you can, of course, win if you have only 2 people on your team, but that's not really the best way to approach it. The workload tends to divide best between 3 to 5 people, especially in terms of complementary skill sets. So you'll see that teams should be formed based on, of course, a common interest in a challenge and solution, something that you're passionate about together as a group. And then secondly, those complementary skill sets needed to develop the solution. So you want someone strong in all the different areas that will give you not only great technical skills, but a good pitch, a well-rounded team, and then of course, transatlantic residency, as discussed previously, 2 or more years living in Germany or the USA, at least one of each of those. And lastly, do start to prepare. Don't wait until the hackathon weekend to start doing your research, looking into the tools provided, and looking into your market audience or user research. The only stipulation there is that your code does need to be fresh at the hackathon, but no reason not to get started working on the project in advance. Next slide, please. A few things that are important to know: the tools and gadgets that will be discussed shortly. In addition to the free access to software from Intel and Luxonis, all approved participants will get a Luxonis OAK-D-Lite Spatial AI Camera delivered prior to the event. So that's what that camera shipping was all about. The 2 time zones mentioned below that, selected teams need to choose between following the EU track or the US track so that they can keep up with the agenda for that track or time zone. So you will want to discuss with your teams which one suits your schedules best. And that is something we will explain once you are accepted to the hackathon. The deliverables at the end of the hackathon are a recorded pitch of no longer than 5 minutes, a slide deck of your presentation, and your code for review on GitHub. And as you've heard a couple of times, but cannot be mentioned too much, a $10,000 US prize pool to be divided up as the judges see fit among the winners. Next slide, please. So these are the evaluation criteria that those deliverables will be judged on. I will not read every single question here because, again, you will be able to look at this later if you want to go back and study it in more detail. But in brief, the impact on the challenge domain, business plan, is it impactful? Does it have a clear purpose? Scalability, is it going to be attractive, easily deployed? Is it likely to overcome concerns during deployment like data privacy? Is it transferable? Business model, is it compelling? Is it likely to be cost effective? Is it feasible? Next slide. Then the team, so we talked about that a little bit already, but as you can see, there are many guiding questions there. The team composition, drive, determination, how well you take into account the mentor's feedback and advice is a pretty big factor, I would say. The judges are able to refer to mentor comments in order to help assess the team. So teams that make a lot of progress based on expert mentor input will definitely have an advantage over those that do not. And then in terms of how much progress is made generally during the event as a team and on the project does make a difference as well. Innovativeness, so is it more effective or efficient than what exists right now? Is it based on different requirements from existing approaches? And then technical capabilities. So did the team develop their solution with appropriate data guidelines taken into consideration? Have they managed to present a clear demo of the solution? So if that is something that your team does, definitely those technical capabilities will be taken into account. If you go to the next slide. So 3 bonus points are awarded for integration of the tools. As Cornelia mentioned, using the tools is not mandatory, but it does benefit you. And frankly, from my point of view, why would you not? But if you do, it definitely benefits you. So if the team integrates and leverages the tools from the sponsors, that is something that benefits them. And then in terms of code review, the code needs to reasonably resemble developed work produced during the hackathon weekend. So that is something to keep in mind about evaluation. Next slide. Then to go through the schedule a little bit, I'll try not to spend too long on this. I think probably a lot of it is self-explanatory. For Friday, the first day of the hackathon, the opening session takes place, you see, at 2 different times, depending on whether you're following Central European or Pacific time. But there's, of course, an opening session with speakers, and it's sort of a kickoff to the event to get everybody pumped and ready to go. Then we have an hour later what we call checkpoint 1. And what checkpoints are a brief assessment with the teams, or the organizers talk to the teams for a couple of minutes each, just to assess where they're at the moment with their project and what they think they need help with from that point until the next checkpoint. And we use that information to match the teams with mentors who seem most appropriate to what they would need at that time. So mentors and teams will be notified, this is who you are matched with. And of course, you can work with other mentors. That's quite fine. But basically, it's a guidance to help make the most of your hacking time. And so immediately after that, mentoring and hacking do start. We typically have a little bit of social time. If people need a break, we'll play some games or something like that online for just a little while. Then the second day, we start off with a checkpoint, and to get us going in the same exact way as checkpoint 1 would work. There is a pitch briefing to give you tips and pointers on how to deliver an effective pitch. A third checkpoint, the final checkpoint, during which there is something called mentor coffee, when the mentors get together and discuss sort of their take on where the teams are at and what kinds of things they'd want the judges to know. And on the final day, there is a pitch submission deadline, which is a firm deadline. So we always encourage people get started early, just in case it's a slow upload. We try to be pretty strict about it to make it fair for everyone. And then we stream those pitches, and the judges are allowed to ask questions, get some answers from the teams. And after that is the jury evaluation, followed by announcement of the winners and closing remarks. So fairly straightforward. The process of pitching, judging, and announcement of winners. Next slide. So finally, the reminder of next steps, I've been over them a couple of times, so I think you probably will have memorized it by now, but you just need to sign up on the website, draft a project, start to contact interesting people. If you want to reach out to myself and my colleague Monday, our emails are at the bottom of the slide here. We are happy to help you with the matchmaking process as much as we can. So that is always an option to you. I did see someone mention in the chat that they're looking for a team. So if you'd like to reach out to us, we can help facilitate that also. So again, April 2nd, registration deadline, April 3rd, that matchmaking workshop, and you do need to be registered in order to be invited to that. So make sure that you are registered. April 6th is the selection announcement, when everybody will find out whether or not they got accepted into the hackathon. And we will send out those Luxonis cameras starting right after that selection announcement. So make sure that you get to us your mailing address and phone number. That's quite important if you are accepted. But as I said, if you have any questions about any of this that don't get answered during this session today, please reach out to myself or Madeline. And those are our email addresses right there. So that concludes the review of the logistics.
Perfect. Thank you, Jana. This is certainly all very important information. But now comes even more important information. Finally, we will talk about those cool tools and gadgets from our sponsors, and I'm very happy to pass the word to Jay Burris from Intel and Eric Kukaji from Luxonis, the sponsors of our Transatlantic AI Hackathon.
Thank you, Cornelia. First, I would just like to say thank you to my partners, GABA, UltraHack, Thank you, Luxanis, for joining us. Thank you, Ragnar, for being here, and a special thank you to the Consul General. I appreciate that. My name is Jay Burris. I work in the Network and Edge group at Intel, and I'm an academic program manager for the OpenVINO Toolkit, which is an AI scaling toolkit for inference for computer vision, natural language processing, recommender systems. Eric, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jay. So hello, everyone. I'm Eric. I help on the technical side of the business at Luxanis.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Notice and disclaimers required by Intel Legal. We can move on. Alrighty. So smart industry really is transforming sort of the edge to cloud architectures in the world by being powered by AI. And when you think about what does edge to cloud mean, so you have your IoT devices, of which an example, the Luxanis Depth AI camera, the OAK-D-Lite, will be provided to all accepted participants, is an example of an IoT device at the edge. But the edge to cloud architecture has to be really driven by network, and there's several layers in the network. So there may be sort of an on-premise edge device, maybe like an edge server, and then connecting to a network edge. Maybe it's a private cloud that needs to connect to a public cloud, so a hybrid cloud environment. You have your core network, which is really being transformed by 5G, and then you have your cloud data centers as well. Think of your big CSPs, but there are also companies that have their own private clouds, because companies have to consider how privacy concerns relate to their data, and some data may need to stay within the walls of the company. Now, 82% of large enterprises are really adopting a hybrid cloud environment. A third of all workloads in the world are going to run on the edge, right? Because it's expensive to transition and transfer that data over the network to a data center. So the cloud isn't the only solution that's going to provide the power to transform industries for smart industry. 55% of enterprises really are relying on AI for their business critical applications. We're going to see 25 billion IoT devices deployed by 2030, and 63% of connections really are expected to take place across 5G networks. Next slide, please. So technology has this huge potential to improve outcomes for every person and enterprises on the planet. And to you entrepreneurs here today, thank you for joining. You may already be very well aware of this. And then for you students who are joining, it's a great time to be involved in AI. You're really on the edge of this wave that's really just starting to take off. You know, Ragnar mentioned, I think, and the Consul General mentioned that we are hearing AI more and more in daily conversation, things about ChatGPT and DALL-E and so forth. So AI really has the power to increase efficiency through automation. You know, we can build safer and more resilient communities. We need ways to combat climate change, and AI has the power to increase that efficiency in utilities, for example, to make sure that we're using our fossil fuels in a way that is minimized and also transition to more sustainable energy use cases as well, and blend those two in smart utility networks. We can expand access and quality healthcare. You know, the ability to do healthcare remotely has increased certainly vastly since the pandemic started 3 years ago. And businesses really want to provide near-time real insights, and AI has the power to do that, be able to really compute all this data that's being collected, but not necessarily being tapped into. And then, of course, we're all very experienced as consumers, so AI has the power to enable immersive shopping experiences. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to quickly go through sort of 3 examples of vertical use cases that where you know, if you consider smart industry participates. So in manufacturing, AI can really strengthen global networks. providing these efficiencies. Now, manufacturing industries face challenges like supply chain disruptions, rising costs, high demand of materials, and so forth. But our emerging trends that we're seeing are essentially needing to deploy faster, improve scalability, enhance operational efficiencies, increase our environmental accountability at the same time, and moving supply chains closer to home. So what AI can really do is reduce supply chain disruptions, lower overhead costs, enhance safety and security, drive those operational improvements, and increase product throughput. And you can be part of that. Next slide, please. Now, manufacturing has to be driven by energy. So energy and utilities really are driving resiliency and sustainability. The utilities environment, however, has unique challenges. So many of our global utilities markets are highly regulated. So they are regulated in such a ways too that their profits are somewhat constrained because of that regulation, because it needs to balance and it needs to provide energy for all. So it's very important for utilities. They focus on operational improvements, but they have to do this while addressing things like extreme weather events, also trying to transition to clean energy, ensure resiliency, always up all the time, so forth. So the trends we see in energies and utilities is really, we're seeing a transition to smart grids. It's going to grow to $103 billion US by 2026 from only 43 billion just 2 years ago. They're investing in smart grid technology with essentially improvements of 25% operational expenses reductions by moving to digitization and improving those performance gains. So they're really focused on reducing overhead costs, optimizing their operations, minimizing their environmental impacts as they go forward through a scalable plan to roll out mechanisms, operational improvements, and for clean energy, and really improve their metering reliability. Now, the third example here I have is sort of robotics, and we're going to see robotics deployed in all sorts of areas with smart industry. And it's actually of a particular importance to Luxonis because the device that we're providing you is a edge-focused computer vision and depth sensing AI-capable device. It's very ideal for robotics, but not necessarily just for robotics, but it's a very good, suitable device for that. So what is robotics? For example, you'd have an industrial robotics with sort of automated control, and you'd have service robotics, robots that perform useful tasks for humans, for equipment around humans. It's very important that environments where humans and robots are acting in one together, that they can do so safely. So why robotics? Well, 115 million units are estimated to be deployed by 2025. And robots can handle repetitive tasks, manual tasks, so that can reduce injury for humans. There's a lot of market drivers, such as food scarcity, labor shortages, and so forth. So the opportunities that robotics can address, like overcoming labor shortages, optimizing safety and security, improving operational efficiency, and increasing those customer expectations of being able to deliver more quickly to customers. So we have 3 exciting collaborative AI-capable technologies. Number 1, we have OpenVINO. OpenVINO stands for Open Visual Inference Neural Network Optimization. It's Intel's AI toolkit for deploying AI to edge devices. However, it's actually used and deployed across of Intel. It supports all of Intel's architectures heterogeneously, and we've moved into a heterogeneous compute architecture environment with XPUs, meaning CPUs, GPUs integrated into CPUs, discrete GPUs as well. We have VPUs, which is what's inside of the Luxonis OAK-D-Lite device as well. The second collaborative technology for you is the Intel Developer Cloud. Sign up. It's a great place to learn more about using Intel software on real hardware in the cloud. There's active learning experiences with Jupyter Notebooks, and you get up to 50 gigabytes of private storage space for your own code and data sets. You can upload your own code, you can upload your own images, you can do your coding there if you would like to, and then you can transfer down to your own local host machine. OpenVINO, you can deploy on your own local host machine. And in the coming days, with short training videos, I'll provide you the mechanism for being able to do so yourself. And then thirdly, Luxonis has the OAK-D-Lite camera device. And so in the next few slides, we're going to go through how this device is so revolutionary. So we have a joint workflow between Intel's software capabilities and Luxonis. So starting from the left side, we have lots of tutorial Jupyter Notebooks you should start with OpenVINO Toolkit Jupyter Notebooks on GitHub. We have our Open Model Zoo. So we have pre-trained models, over 200 for you to start from, things that can do object detection and segmentation, natural language processing, and so forth. Now, the Jupyter Notebooks are really those narrative Jupyter Notebooks with code within them that's executable, and many of them use those pre-trained models. And then our Intel Developer Cloud environment is where you could upload your models, data sets, and code. You can develop your inference engine blob, download your host blob to your own laptop device, and then deploy into the OAK-D-Lite target device. Now, the OAK-D-Lite target device supports 60 frames per second in depth, 12 megapixels, and 30 frames per second for color camera. It has 3 cameras on it, sort of 2 for the depth sensing and the 1 center one for the AI capability for the 4 tops of AI and computer vision processing. Next slide, please. Actually, maybe Eric would best be speaking to this. And then Eric, I'm certainly happy to also speak up, but would you like to take us through your device?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jay. So what's so unique about the OAK-D-Lite that each participant will get? So it combines depth perception, stereo depth perception more precisely, together with the AI and CV on the edge. So you can run your neural network models and your computer vision algorithms on this embedded device. And to deploy the neural networks on the camera, you can use the OpenVINO platform, both for model conversion and also compilation, so you can then deploy it to the device. Next slide, please. And before Luxonis and our OAK cameras, for such robotics perception projects, you would need different components, as you see on the slide. So depth sensor, 4K color camera for Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi itself, AI accelerator, for example, NCS2, and all of these components, you would have to glue them together with different software tools, which would take a lot of time. And the result would also be a bulky and power-hungry solution. Next slide, please. So this is what the OAK-D-Lite abstracts. So it's a tiny spatial AI camera where you can deploy smart manufacturing settings to accomplish different examples of applications. So examples here would be item tracking and item counting, maybe machine safety solution. So if a person or a hand is too close to a robot or a machine, it would automatically shut down. Another example would be anomaly detection for quality assurance and quality control applications. You can do automatic box dimension measurements, so width, height, and length, by fusing the AI capabilities on the camera together with the stereo depth, which provides you the point clouds. And another example would be to check whether workers in the factories are wearing protective equipment. So your working gloves, safety glasses, or masks. Just a few examples that can be accomplished with our OAK-D-Lite.
Thank you, Eric. So with additional resources, please do visit our GitHub repository for OpenVINO. You'll find the Jupyter Notebooks there. You'll also find the Open Model Zoo there. And there is a way to easily install locally the OpenVINO toolkit in less than 10 steps. With Windows, it takes 9. With Linux, it takes 7. That's why I say less than 10. But very easy to do. For example, with Windows, you have a few dependencies that you'll need to install, like Python, Visual Studio C++, and Git. But then you clone the Git, and you'll have access to all of the Jupyter Notebooks locally, and you can run them. Our Intel Developer Cloud also has OpenVINO installed there, and so pre-installed for you. And there's lots of actual physical equipment in the cloud to deploy and test your models to, and you can benchmark as well. And then Luxonis has a lot of great resources. So they have documentation, they have a GitHub repository, and they also have a Discord community. Next slide, please. So we look forward to seeing your creative solutions and participating in this upcoming hackathon. Just remember the deadlines. The deadline to register is April 1st, and the actual hackathon will be the weekend of April 21st to the 23rd. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Really, thank you very much, Jay and Eric, for all the support from you personally and from your companies, Intel and Luxonis. And this is also a shout out for the Luxonis CEO who is here on the panel, Bradley Dillon. This hackathon would not be possible without your support. We have come to the end of all our presentations today. Now is your turn. Please take note of the Transatlantic AI Hackathon website. Register for the hackathon as soon as possible and submit your project ideas. Remember, the deadline is April 2nd. And now let's see if we have any questions that you would like to ask. Don't be shy, put them in the chat window. I was asked by friends who approached me, hey, this sounds very interesting. AI is such a big topic nowadays, but I'm not a coder. I'm not a hacker, really. And my answer was that, well, a successful team needs to be diverse. So there might be coders out there who would actually appreciate having help with someone on the team who could prepare the pitch presentation. So if you are strong in the area of marketing, communications, product design, go ahead, sign up for the hackathon, and maybe you find a team of real hackers and coders to complement a great, strong, and successful team. Another question I was asked was, well, we are a team of, 3 people here from the US. How do we get a German? So this is, again, I want to underline that, the purpose of our matchmaking session, where UltraHack will facilitate that the teams are assembled to fulfill the requirements. Let's see, do we have any other questions? If not, I would say, let's wrap it up for today. This definitely then concludes our challenge information session. And I would like to explicitly thank again all our partners for their outstanding cooperation and support. And I would also like to thank our outreach partners who have multiplied the information about our smart industry DeepHack through their communication channels. So with this, my last words for today: go register for the hackathon. Thanks for joining today, and thanks for joining again on the hackathon weekend. Have a nice rest of the day. Goodbye from California. Bye-bye.